Hey y'all, so I want to walk through a couple of these voicing concepts a bit. So I'm going to play some chords. Here we go. All in root position. Pretty generic standard chord progression, but I think it'll work pretty well to show you some of these ideas. So I'm going to clean this up a little bit, grabbing all the notes. Quantize start and end. Thank you very much. I'll adjust the velocity so it's palatable. All right, so I got my basic chord progression. Yeah, it's a little bit bright. Let's keep it mellow. Turn this off. Actually, let's be a little mellower. There we go. That's fine. So this is standard, closed position voicing. So the first thing I want to talk about, let's open this up a little bit. I want to talk about how to open a closed position voicing. But first, what does it mean to be closed? Well, if we take a look at this chord, this is a C chord. Let's change these to, I don't know, red or something, so it's easy to see. So when we look at this chord, we know that a C chord has C, E, and G in it, yeah? So what you'll notice is that between this C and this E, there are no C, E's, or G's. What I'm essentially saying is we're not skipping any chord tones before we get to the next chord tone. That is basically what we consider a closed position voicing. An open position voicing is when we skip a chord tone or more. So if I take the E and I throw it up an octave, you will notice that now we are skipping the E. We're going to G, and we're also skipping C, by the way, if you notice that. So we're playing a C, we're skipping E, we're playing a G, we're skipping C, and we're playing an E. This is how you open up a closed position voicing. So this would be open position, and if I bring the E back down, notice that we're no longer skipping any chord tones that we're not playing. Cool, easy enough. So if I take this chord progression, and I take every middle note and move them up an octave, this is a very easy way. Why do I have two notes here? What chord did I play? Oh yeah, get rid of you. So it's a very easy way of opening up your closed position, right? So if I shoot them up an octave, that's it. Sounds pretty, right? But you will notice, wife is texting me. You will notice that I did this all in root position, right? So what if I'm not crazy about that, right? Let me undo that. What if I wanted to invert the chords? Well, let's do that first. Let's invert these. These two are the same note. They're good. These are all far apart. Let's throw these up an octave. Cool. And I'll take these like that. Yeah, it's perfect. So now we got our open position, closed position voicing, right? Apologies. Our closed position inverted voicings. Notice that the bass line is still bass notes in the C1 to C2 octave, give or take. Good place to put them. Sounds nice and smooth. Delicious. Wunderbar. Anyway, so now I'm going to take that and I'm going to copy that clip. Let me close all these out. Because I just want to see. Actually, I don't even need the mixer. Just want to see the clips, so I'm going to copy that one. So now I'm going to open up these voicings again, but you're going to notice I'm just grabbing the middle voice. I'm not trying to do anything fancy. I'm not trying to grab the third or anything like that. I'm just grabbing whatever's in the middle voice. That's it. So now I have an open position chord progression that is also voice-led. Check this out. Kind of nice, right? So let's go way back here to our closed positions. Closed position triad. Now I want to add the seventh to every chord. We'll do the exact same thing with the seventh. So this is the root, this is the third, this is the fifth, the seventh would be B. Now if you don't know your chords well, and this is not easy to do, you may want to practice that a bit. You can also notice that the spacing is 3, 2, 3 in between these notes, aka this note is the root. Then there's 3 notes in between the third, there's 2 notes in between the fifth, and there's 3 notes in between the seventh. So now we'll do the same thing with this guy. You can also copy this up an octave and then bring it down one step. That's another approach. Minor seventh chords, which would be what this is, they're going to be the opposite. They're going to be 2, 3, 2. Or you could grab that root note, throw it up an octave, and then down 2 steps, like so. And then this one, oops. Wrong button. This one's going to be a dominant chord, so it's going to be a little bit different. It's going to be 3, 2, 2. So we're also, taking the root down a major second, or down 2 steps. Now here's our sevenths. Now to open this up, we would grab, the second and fourth notes potentially. Now you don't have to grab both, but that's a relatively common thing to do. You want to be careful not to get too high in frequency. But now check this out, super open. I can drive a car through these. Cool, great. Now, what if we invert it? So I'm inverting all these chords, moving the notes around. What I am trying to do is to avoid having a minor second in the top 2 voices. I'm okay with it here. That's all right. No big deal. But we want to maybe try to avoid that in other instances. And there's actually an interesting problem that will arise. I'll show you. But here's our closed position, voice-led 7th chords. Generally fine. Works well enough. It's just a piano with nothing going on. It's very basic. So now if I do the same thing, if I take all the notes in my second voice and my top voice up an octave, I'm opening my inverted voicings. That doesn't sound too bad, right? But you will notice right here we have a major 7th. Not the worst thing in the world, right? We can survive that. We'll make it work, Now you have to be careful. In this case, it works. But if you were to invert that and it became a minor 9th, then you might want to be mindful of that. Now, this particular chord progression works out pretty well this way, which is one of the reasons why I chose it. But look out for that in the future. Isn't that just delicious? All right. Anyway, so I am going to now take this and I'm going to get rid of like almost everything and do the shell voicing, right? So I'm going to rebuild the chord. Here's another way of building chords, by the way. You can just copy these notes, up a 3rd, up a 5th, up a 7th, and that will generally work for the most part, except for that note and this note. I had to adjust those because of, where we are in terms of the key signature. Back to where we started, where we have our diatonic closed position, all root position or closed voicing root position 7th chords. So now I'm going to show you how to make shells. Now a shell is very simple: root in the bass, 3rd and 7th in the chord. So what I'm actually going to do is get all the roots and all the 5ths and get rid of them. That's it. Those are your shells. And you'll notice they're not inverted, but at this point it's pretty easy to invert them. You just move, there's only 2 notes, right? And you're going to have, with shells, it might be not quite as nice an inversion, depending on your root motion. If you're moving around in 2nds and 3rds a lot, you might run into some issues. Moving around in 4ths, they're just perfect. They always look like this. They're great. But when you move around in 2nds or 3rds, you're going to have to jump around a bit. But generally speaking, you can smooth out your shell voicings. And these are really nice because then you can, solo. Or whatever you want to do on top of it. And they're very open. They're very easy to deal with. In a live performance situation, let's say you're a jazz musician, potentially. Who would do that? It's crazy. The bass player might be doing these guys. The pianist might play the shells, and then a horn player or the piano, someone else, guitar, I don't know, it doesn't matter, might be soloing on top of it. And it's nice and open and spacious and lovely. Yeah, so hopefully this is a little bit about how to voice chords with closed and open, whether they are inverted or not, before or after you open and close those voicings, and then to also create shells, which is the root in the bass line, the 3rd and 7th in the voicing of the chord, and whether or not you want to invert those. I generally encourage to invert more than not, but make creative decisions where you feel it's necessary. Anyway, hope that helps, and yeah, I'm going to go drink heavily, I suppose. It's a Friday. See ya.